I was, well, yes and no. I was drafted. I figured I was before the lottery system. I don't know, did anybody talk to you about the lottery system? Yeah. Okay, I was before the lottery system. And so I knew it was probably a good chance. I wasn't doing all that well in college at the time. And so I knew I would probably lose my student deferment. And so I tried to join the Navy Reserves, and they were really popular to get into, and everybody wanted to get into it. And so I think I don't remember exact dates, but I finally was accepted. I had a report to date of like November 15th to report to the Navy Reserves, and at that time they were in Van Nuys, and I think they're now out here in Point Magoo. But then about 2 days after I got that letter, I got another letter saying, "Greetings, I needed to report to the Selective Service Board on November 7th. And I started making phone calls and going everywhere I could to see if I could get entered into the Navy Reserves early, and they all just said, "Sorry, Charlie." And I went was drafted. But I served a little over 2 years, and what happened was when we were in what they called 0 week in basic training, when they do all your testing before basic training, they gave us a couple options. If we wanted to join the regular Navy at that time, they would guarantee us a MOS, a job that that you might like better than what they would select you, and you wouldn't have to be infantry and all that stuff. And so I looked at them, and the jobs they were offering in this radio relay sounded interesting, so I did that. Having that MOS pretty much guaranteed you to go to Vietnam, which they don't bother to tell you at that point in time. But it's that. And I've looked at Vietnam as, I lived through it. I didn't have any major problems or things. I think so I looked at it as a learning experience and just let it go with that, and I made the best out of it. I was. And then the tours are normally 1 year, but if you extend your tour, what they started doing near the end of the war, when I was near the end of my thing, was when you rotate out of Vietnam, if you're within 6 months of your end of your enlistment, then you'd be rotated out of the Army, and you would be in an inactive reserves and wouldn't have to go to meetings. And so I felt it was, for at least for me at the time, that it was safe enough that I could extend my tour in Vietnam and then get out of having to serve in the military in the stateside. And my job, the nomenclature was, MOS was 31M20, which was radio relay and carrier operator. And when I was in basic, they all joked that I was going to be carrying the radio with the antenna on it that says "shoot me." But what I did is I provided phone communication from division headquarters to the battalion command posts. And so it would be where it was broadcasted over VHF or UHF, but the people were able to pick up a phone and it would ring at division headquarters or battalion command posts. So the smallest unit I would support would be a battalion, and when we went out in the field, it was not so much like Skipper and any of the infantry people. I would go out in the field, it would be the battalion command post. We'd be there in the center of it with a 30-foot sectional antenna, and we'd have a company always there. There would be mortars there. At night they'd bring 2 more companies of infantry. There would be a platoon of, or whatever they call them, I don't remember, of armor tanks. And so it was not like going out there where you were there. There was a few times we'd have fire would come in. We almost always had rockets come in. They technically tried to aim at the antenna, but they never got the antenna. Well, most people didn't want to know or care or anything, and most of the veterans, if they were in uniform, were kind of scorned and stuff. Yeah. It's not like it is nowadays with the veterans coming home, the military. So most of the veterans kept it to themselves, and And I think most veterans of war, you know, they don't talk much about it. I would say there's a whole lot more veterans than me that had not had, you know, as good as the experience or anything, you know, where it was, when you're out there having to do hand-to-hand combat, and we're out there having to be shooting more and everything. I mean, I think I was once, while I was on guard duty, we were involved in a firefight, but I have no idea if I hit anybody. We never saw anything, and it probably could have just conceivably somebody saw something, shot something, and then once one person started shooting along the perimeter of the base, then just everybody there was shooting. So I have, you know, I say I have no idea, and I probably have never shot anybody there. It did, you know, I know it didn't bother me about people. I don't think it bothered me. Did I ever say it bothered me about people the way they were kind of scorned the veterans and stuff?
I don't think it bothered you until after, once the people came back from the Desert Storm, and you know, people received them so well, and people, you know, we'd be in coffee shops and stuff, and people would go up to people, or like at airports, people would offer Desert Storm people their seat on a plane, or bring them a cup of coffee, and go up and say thank you, and you would say things like, "That never happened to me when I came.
We never got
a thank you. We never had."
Well, for me, it was kind of like both. I mean, it was a thrill to be back and be over with all that. But it was still a kind of a transition, because you're moving from a very regimented time of your life to more just freedom part of yourself. And since I didn't have any of the heavy conflict or the heavy emotional stuff that a lot of people out of Vietnam had, it made it easier for me. I think it was just getting used to civilian life again was that. And I pretty much, I think right after I got back, let's see, I came back in June, I believe it was, and so I started getting ready. I decided, gone back to college, decided to change my major and everything, so I started getting that going and moving in that direction and stuff, and I was able to pick up with friends that I had beforehand and stuff and do things, so it was, I think it was an easy transition, and it was just, it probably took a few months just to, you know, get totally back immersed into a civilian lifestyle. You know, probably the most comical thing, of course I don't think Bobby would say that, was after Vietnam, after we got married. I could sleep through all the noise in the world, but any quiet noise would just jar me, and I'd just kind of jump. And so she came over to give me a kiss. I think I was working nights at the time, wasn't I? Yeah, and you were working daytimes, and so she came over to give me a quiet kiss goodbye, and it startled me so much I came out starting to swing at her.
Gave me a black eye.
And so